G'day listeners, welcome to Barkarati, the sailing podcast. My name's Jordan Spencer. It's that time of the week where we get to hang out with some really cool sailors, but of course I have to share the microphone with my two idiot mates. Now, first off is Mr. Brett Perry.
Greetings, exalted one.
Now, what has happened is we've already recorded the interview, but then we're going to do the intro and outro together. But BP, I'm in New Zealand, so we're having to do it really early in the morning Australia time, and BP is not answering the phone and waking up. So we're going to go and continue and just take the piss out of him because he forgot to wake up. So I'll bring in the other bloke so he can make his comment.
He had a voice that could make a wolverine purr.
Mr. Nick Bice.
Well, it's commitment to the cause, right?
Commitment to the cause.
I know we miss the old one here and there, but as you mentioned, you're in NZ, I'm in Adelaide. It's 5:30 a.m. my time on a Sunday morning. Church services don't start this early, so you can't use that excuse. But who knows?
Could have been.
Did the Swannies win last night? Maybe that might be.
Maybe that's it. Yeah.
So. Yeah, but yep, you're living the high life over there. We're going to hear all about it in the outro, but having a bit of fun.
I hung out with the Australian yachting champions last night. I had dinner with some members of your team, Mr. Bice.
Yeah, Sacred Men's Business Boys.
It was a lot of fun. Just hanging out with those boys, and it was good. You know, some of the legends of the Australian sailing scene. So it was very, very nice.
Well. A couple of them have been, they're kind of normal size humans, as opposed you're a bit larger. Well, you're 5'10" with a 7'2" man's head on it. So your nose is pretty big in comparison, right? But you're hanging out with Petra and Kevy. They got massive schnozzers on them too, man.
And your shade being thrown around.
You can imagine it. You can imagine. Yeah. Geez, you'd all hate to blow your hanky at the same time in the restaurant. You'd blow the windows out.
Oh, you're a funny bastard. I love it. Dear. All right. Shall I bring in our guest?
Yeah, no, let's do. This
is going to be an interesting one, listeners. We've got a guy that won Class 40. He's been Class 40 champion and is moving into the IMOCA class. 25 podiums in the transatlantic coastal ocean races, taking a couple of victories in and breaking 3 world sailing records, all uniquely with 0 emissions. Now, this is interesting because this guy is a real innovator and has been quite influential in the sport. His mission is to race around the globe in the world's first hydrogen-powered race yacht. So power for, instead of using fuel to power anything on board. He has been developing solutions in the maritime space that you're using on your boats, and now he's putting an IMOCA campaign together. And he's a mechanical engineer, so he's doing all sorts of composite structural design with boats that you've heard about, and all these things that you're using, this guy's created. And we wanted to get him on the show because he is quite an interesting guy, and we want to watch his journey with interest. So welcome to our show, Mr. Phil Sharp. So Phil Sharp, welcome to the show, mate. Great to have you.
Well, it's great to be here. Thank you. It's a delight to be here on the show today, and I look forward to it.
Mate, I have to introduce, given the intro we just talked about, you pretty much make me feel unworthy as a human being. The things that you've achieved are incredible.
Well, I don't like obviously sitting still too long, and I suppose I've clocked up a few things over the years. But there's always other things left to do, isn't there? So I guess I'm someone that doesn't like doing the same thing twice, and I'm looking for basically bigger and more interesting challenges, and we can talk about that today.
Has it always been sailing? I mean, is it a thing that's been around since your youth?
Well, I'll give you a bit of perspective, right? So I come from a very small island called Jersey. And it's interesting because Jersey's there's a lot of people on Jersey, but there's not. It's a small island in the South English Channel, but there's not a lot of offshore sailing going on there. So
Well, a lot of people use Jersey.
Well, yeah, either work in a bank, ride a motorbike, or go sailing, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're in finance, then it's great. And if you've got if you want to hop down over to France in your motorboat, then it's great. But I was, I suppose, looking for a way to escape the island for quite a while when I was young, and yeah, I sort of started getting into offshore sailing with my parents, and then I escaped to university in London, and then I came across the mini transat class, which just seemed like the most crazy idea possible, heading across the Atlantic in a 21-foot boat, which I found completely fascinating, and yeah, that sort of really got me hooked into the offshore sailing challenge, as it were, and it went from there really. That was back in 2003 when I left uni, and I basically decided to do a race like about 2 weeks before my final exams. So
Wow.
my fourth year exams weren't really the most impressive of my results, should we say. And
How was your racing result?
Oh yeah, the racing result was a bit better actually.
Oh, good. That's all we need to know.
Yeah,
it's all in
yeah,
perspective then.
And so yeah, so it kind of convinced to me that I had maybe a bit of a joint career to follow, that in offshore sailing and also engineering, and I guess I've really been pursuing both of those over the last since I left uni really, which has been 20 years ago now. So yeah, we've done some interesting things, and from mini to class 40 to Figaro, and now looking at the 60 class, which is yeah, for me always been the Formula One, and the most unbelievable focal point for offshore sailing.
Did you do any competitive sailing before your parents introduced you to offshore stuff, or it was just the odd bit here and there?
No, I didn't actually, and I don't think I really had. I didn't really have that that whole buzz of the racing scene in Jersey around me when I was growing up. So I didn't really discover the racing until I escaped and went to uni, and then I got into team racing quite heavily, and I think it was then that I realised I was just unbelievably competitive, and yeah, I'm a guy that just hates finishing second. And you know,
You're okay with third though, are
with,
you? Or
yeah, third's okay. Third's
Yep.
okay, because you're not really tantalizingly close to the win. So I can do third, but as long as
nice answer.
That's all right.
Nice answer.
But yeah, second, I'm not really a second person.
Love it. Good answer.
The thing is though, like you sort of undersold it there. Like you've excelled at sort of both the engineering element. You know, you've got a master's of mechanical engineering, and you've been responsible for some amazing things, which we'll touch on. And then, you know, and the sailing, and now you are literally combining the two. You know, obviously, to my eye, when I look at some of the things that you've developed, sailing has influenced your thought process. You know, you're looking to come up with engineering solutions to sailing problems. You know, like I think that you've obviously got too much time on your hand when you're out there by yourself sailing away. You know,
How you do? Yeah, no, you have a lot to think about, and
what's it?
And you're sort of thinking, yeah, I mean, it's great because you get into an ocean, and then you can sort of break away from all the normality, the stresses, strains, and constraints of normal life, and yeah, you can really open up your mind. And I mean, it's funny, like all things sort of happen a little bit by themselves and unfold, you know, for all the strange reasons. And I actually started getting interested in clean energy when I did the mini transat, and I actually had a problem with my my generator a few days before the start. And so I was thinking, you know, crap, what am I going to do? And I basically just went to like the nearest marine electrical shop, and basically bought these two massive solar panels, which I hang off the back of the boat. left the generator on the shore, and did the Mini Transat just purely with solar energy, which no one had ever done. So it was a massive risk, and I had really no idea whether there'd be enough power. And I did actually have to helm basically 95% of the time. But no, I mean, it went honestly, like it was just so invigorating having not to start up a noisy, smelly generator on the boat. And I think having that appreciation that you could just almost, go on forever. You were autonomous. You could really just collect energy wherever you were on the ocean, and that sort of fulfillment really gave me the drive to really go one step further and start looking into, okay, how can we replace diesel engines on all our boats today, and yeah, one day have engineless sailing, which would be pretty nice. And that really started me getting interested in the world of hydrogen and fuel cells, as we realized this could be a really competitive way to, from a weight perspective, to replace diesel generators and engines as we kind of still have on boats today.
So to put it into perspective, though, Phil, maybe for the listeners as well, explain actually the degree that you did at uni, and which mechanical engineering, right?
Yeah, so I did mechanical engineering, and I did that Imperial in London, Imperial College in London, which was a little bit too far from the water for my liking, but it was that was quite applied with some composites thrown in there, and then from there I've sort of worked on a few engineering projects, actually in work. When I say work, not sailing, and we're looking at so I did a project in building a wind turbine blade, designing and building a wind turbine blade, which is pretty interesting. Also designed the super yacht A spars. Yep. And after that, that's when I really decided, okay, now's the time. I'm going to set up a company that can actually start commercializing clean power solutions for the maritime sector. So we started that up in 2018, a company called Genevos, and we're now manufacturing plug and play hydrogen fuel cell generators for boats today.
Yeah, wow.
And the other thing you did also is the non-skid solar panels as well. Like, it's just incredible when you look through the things that you've done, with this hydrogen.
Well, yeah, I get again, and that comes from basically the fact that that solution didn't exist. And I was fed up slipping over and falling on my arse every time I ran down to a sail change, and I needed a decent solution. And there was nothing actually available off the shelf that you could buy at the time. So I mean, I'm definitely.
It's all about problem solving, isn't it? That's all it is.
I was just thinking, Bicey,
exactly,
we need to install a couple of those solar cells at your pub.
Stop slipping over. That won't save me, mate. It's the ball bearings in the kneecaps that make you fall over.
Is that it's just genius that and now you see it everywhere. But I was looking at the hydrogen cell, and I have no idea how it works, because it's a modular solution. Like, is it creating its own hydrogen gas from water as part of that whole solution? Is that how it's working, or what's going?
No, it actually uses. It's a fuel cell. It's a power generator, so it converts hydrogen gas, which is effectively a fuel. And it can be a clean fuel, because you can produce hydrogen from renewable energy. Correct. So the whole future fuel that we're looking at today is green hydrogen, because effectively we can produce it in unlimited quantities from renewables through electrolysis, and so effectively you can use hydrogen as your clean fuel. And the great thing about hydrogen is no carbon in it, right? So you're going to get no CO2. You've got actually no pollutants whatsoever from.
It's waste product. It's waste product water, right?
Your waste product is just water. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So you can react that in a fuel cell using oxygen from the air to create water, and from that you get power output.
Is that water? Is that water usable? Is it water?
You can drink it. Yeah, you can. Yeah, it's actually distilled. It's the purest form of water.
Well,
So if you're really, if you're getting really thirsty on the boat and it hasn't rained for a while, then you can actually drink that water. It's not very interesting, because
Is water interesting? Full stop.
Fuel cell, water maker,
water can be
Water
very
at the
maker.
same
interesting.
time.
Yeah.
I ran out of water once in a race, and the only thing I could think about, so we had a problem with the actual tank burst soon after the start, and we were thinking we had about 80 liters of water, but when I went to check, we had about 30. So I remember having to ration water in the middle of the Atlantic in the tropics, and we were there like drinking. We only had 1 liter a day, so you should normally be on about 4 or 5 liters a day in the tropics. And I just remember thinking, the only thing you can think about the whole time is when can I next have a sip of water. And when you do actually drink water, when you're that thirsty, it's just the most amazing thing in the world.
Yes, no, I agree with that.
It tastes better than a pint on a Friday night after a long week in the office. So there you go. That just put it into context.
Just to put it.
So we go back to the fuel cell technology, right? So this is so we can produce actually high power output from reacting reacting hydrogen with oxygen, creating water, produces a positive reaction, and hydrogen obviously is a very light gas. You have to store it in high pressure tanks, so that does weigh a bit more than the equivalent in diesel. But generally speaking, you can produce a system with a hydrogen and a fuel cell that is very similar weight to a standard diesel system on a boat. Okay, so if you want to do a racing boat with clean energy, it's really the most competitive way to do so. And so what we decided to do is try and make this fuel cell technology accessible to all different types of boats, because every boat is different. They all have different powers, different objectives. So commercial vessels, leisure craft, we wanted to have like effectively a generator pack that included all the fuel cell systems and energy management that would effectively replace the diesel generator on a boat, that would be plugged into the hydrogen gas supply and then would output electricity to the propulsion system or the auxiliary system.
So what
so yeah, we're trying to make it as simple, basically produce something as simple and plug and play as possible.
I guess well, a lot of our listeners would have seen the Team New Zealand Chase Zero that uses that. Are they using the same technology, or is this a little bit different, or Toyota have got bigger resources, or they're just kind of doing it as a bit of a tokenism?
They're using very similar technology to what we're developing. Exactly. So we're developing a more marinized version, really, of that technology.
Yep.
That is really taken off the shelf from the vehicles, that system. So it's a very similar like package as what is going into the Toyota Mirai, which are the hydrogen Toyota cars, which incidentally can do about 800 kilometers on a tank of hydrogen, which is only 5 kilos of hydrogen. They can do about 700-800 kilometers.
Mate, Jordan would love that sort of economy. Especially from a monetary point of view.
Absolutely. The other thing I'll just say, because I know some people are sitting out there going, hydrogen, in my real world, I see a lot of the investments that governments are putting into and hydrogen investment currently across the globe, not just at a government level and a corporate level, for production of hydrogen is like the biggest thing that is being talked about. I hear about it nonstop all day, every day. So the access to hydrogen gas is definitely on the front foot. It's something it's going to be one of the big changes of the future. There's no question. I mean, I know I can name hydrogen plants that are being set up in Australia all over the place.
Yeah, no, it's a big talk on the energy news at the moment, and hydrogen is, I mean, you can use it for different things, right? So you can use it to actually store energy as well as a green fuel.
Correct.
So if you want to store a lot of energy, and if you've got a lot of renewables, then well, the problem with renewables is they're inconsistent. Depends when the wind blows and when the sun shines. So you can actually store energy longer term with hydrogen by electrolyzing it, and then either convert it back to electricity using fuel cells, or you can use it, as a fuel in a car or in a boat using fuel cells to obviously displace the carbon, the standard pollution that you'd have from the vehicles. So you can use it really as an energy vector. And I know, it's incredible just how many people are committing to hydrogen strategies, and even in France there's been an investment like 9 billion
Japan
investment put aside in France, and it looks like that's the way that things are going. I mean, the big challenge is going to be getting hydrogen into the ports, into marine stations. So we're working on 3 projects actually over in Europe with our OceansLab IMOCA project involved in that as well, to try and basically kickstart the refueling infrastructure as well. And when we've got that, I think we'll have the confidence that people can quite happily shift to hydrogen fuel cells on their boats, and have access to that hydrogen in various different ports, to ensure they can be more resilient and sustainable.
Is there we've sort of moved away a little bit from yachting. We'll get back to it in a second. But,
that's definitely on the agenda.
That's true. We did actually want to chat about yachting. Yeah.
No, but this subject is huge, and look, I'm no expert at it. Like I just cruise along in my little Holden Commodore down here in Australia, and one day
buy Volvo engines for your X2.
Yeah, well, that's right. So like, but the point is that is there an element of these big diesel companies, and we're going down a conspiracy theory here, holding back this sort of technology because they know that they're going to be missing out, or they're trying to get involved, or is there an element of that? Are you allowed to say that?
Has one of the big someone brought you out, basically? Is someone secretly sponsoring your Vendée campaign to hold up the technology?
We're pretty clean as far as things go. We're pretty clean, but there are a few people who are really trying to convert to hydrogen, or add hydrogen to their existing fuel supplies. And I think they're genuinely, it's not greenwashing. I think they're genuinely doing it for business, because it can actually make sense now to I mean, there's just basically a lot of market demands now for clean power coming up, and
that's absolutely true. But there's also a transition period here between an existing company with a company that's been around for 50 years or whatever it is, producing a product that all of a sudden is going, well, hang on, the world's demanding something else. What do we get into? Batteries, lithium batteries, or do we get into this, or do we, if they make the wrong choice, then their company is going to be completely null and void in 10 years' time.
No, that's right. I mean, and there's drastic amounts of change currently with the big engine companies, and they're buying up companies left, right, and centre in electric drivetrain motors, batteries, fuel cells, and they're really looking at how they can diversify. But I mean, even that. I mean, when you're looking at a company producing, you take someone like Cummins, who produce just incredible amount of engines. How can they just completely change that business?
That's my point. My point is that.
And actually, a lot of these companies are looking at developing hydrogen engines, hydrogen combustion engines that actually take, compress and burn the hydrogen in the engine, which is actually, it's one way of doing it, and it's pretty clean, but it's not zero emissions, and you've still got the noise issues and the vibration issues, and just everything. I suppose all the things we've sort of got used to from a certain perspective. But they're not completely changing their business model. And actually, there's a lot of talk about now, trucking going into initially hydrogen combustion engines, because it's a lower investment cost than fuel cells, even though it is clearly a lot lower efficiency, and the overall cost of ownership is actually less. So there's it's another path of development, and I think we'll see kind of that in parallel with the fuel cells.
It's such a massive thing that's in front of us right now, and all this information that's going around. I mean, for us, I mean, for me in particular, you just don't know who to believe. And obviously, this conversation could go down this path for the next 2 or 3 hours, I'm sure. But we want to talk a bit about yachting.
He's in charge. I love it.
No, because I'm fascinated by all this, and hydrogen
Yeah.
power for me just seems like it's been held back for so long, and
Mm.
for whatever reason, albeit financial or people just discrediting things. But I'd
Or
love to
Phil
know.
going sailing all the time and can't spend enough time
Developing it.
finalising the exact development.
Yeah.
That's kind of it. Yeah, I don't get enough time in the lab.
Actually, what I have to ask that question. So your is one of your brands is OceansLab? OceansLab? Is that correct?
Yeah, so OceansLab is our racing project. Okay.
Yep.
And that is really focused on accelerating clean tech, particularly hydrogen technology, into the marine sector, using the IMOCA 60 as a demonstrator. And it is really important that we have demonstrators and pilot projects, because
Sure.
I think until people really see it, they get on a boat and they see the technology actually installed and in action, and they see it working, then people are just going to hold back. So we, I really believe in actually developing, real working solutions. And I thought, there's nothing better than to do this with by taking the technology around the world and creating
Absolutely.
the first full, well, we can say first true zero IMOCA 60. And I've been wanting to do this for a while, and to be honest, I think the 60 class should be probably greener than it is today. I mean, it's kind of staggering, really, when you look at all these high performance race boats at the cutting edge of innovation, and they've still got fossil fuels on board. So it's been a while coming. I've been looking at this now for quite a few years, and it looks like now we actually have the time where we can actually buy green hydrogen technology, so we have a clean fuel available, and really the time is now to make this technology accessible and to really push this forward. And based on that, we kickstarted our OceansLab project. Officially, we were able to push the button on it in December last year to get things moving.
Congratulations. That's
Yeah.
cool. I just want to say, I know BP's got a really important questions, but I do want to say, you read words, how your brain's triggered in a certain direction. I saw OceansLab and I thought it was a beer manufacturer.
Everything comes back to beer with you.
A slab is, a pack of beer in Australia. We call it a slab.
Wow,
So
like it.
Well, I'd say I would call it a slab. Jordan calls a slab of chocolate.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry about that. Go on, BP.
All right, so the two worlds collided. Sorry, BP.
Yep. No, you're right. Go.
Phil, two worlds have collided. You've managed to join the two up, sailing. You've got the OceansLab basically underway now. What part of the planning are things at? What's the future look like for that particular campaign?
Well, the planning actually started. So I mean, the thing about an IMOCA 60 campaign, it's a big project, and it just takes a long time to put together. And there's just so much uncertainty around the whole thing for so long. It was ridiculous. So we had initially a cornerstone investor, which was capable of basically starting. It was from there possible to start attracting other investors into the project. But it took us basically a year to look for to actually get a bank signed up to finance the boat, because no one wants to touch an IMOCA 60 project with a barge pole. I mean, it's got to be like the most risky thing out there.
Yeah.
And so when you're asking someone to basically loan against a boat like that, everyone just runs away. Even banks in France, where you think they kind of live and breathe it over here. So it actually took a long time to find that, put it into place, and even then, I mean, just before we signed for the boat, there were two other skippers really trying to get the boat, and there was one guy who basically had all the sponsors lined up. He didn't have a boat, and we fortunately just managed to get over the line to sign before them. So even until end of November, it was all pretty uncertain. But yeah, we had effectively the chance to go for it, and we just managed to, I guess, get over the line before the window closed to qualify for the Vendée. So we've now got this boat which started construction early December, which will be hitting the water ideally in early August. But we have to get the boat in the water, start testing, trialing it, and then compete in the Transat Jacques Vabre and the return Atlantic race later this year. And that's absolutely critical because we need to do a qualifying race this year. And that's when I say qualifying race, the return race back from Martinique after the Transat Jacques Vabre is actually an official solo qualifier for the Vendée Globe, and it's imperative that all new boats do a official qualifying race this year. So that's really our mission, and it takes a while to build an IMOCA. It takes about 9 months, 8 to 9 months, and the boats are just phenomenally complex. I mean, when you look at all the foil structure, the keel structure, it's just there's just so many processes involved, and you're there just basically at the moment. I'm just kind of every night praying that nothing goes wrong and we don't have any delays, which so far seems to be working.
Let's look at the positives. Let's go back to who's the design, who's what's your philosophy. Obviously the philosophy is clean energy, but the build itself, obviously you're going down, you want to be competitive. There's obviously that's important. So you've got a lot to think about, not just a matter of putting a boat in the water and saying we're hydrogen powered. You want to go out there and be in the top part of the fleet. So there's that's what we probably all want to know.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think from doing a new boat, there was obviously that it satisfied my performance objectives of ideally racing to win, racing at the front. There was also the advantage also of integrating the hydrogen system in the design phase, because the energy system is totally different. But then there's also the benefit of qualifying. So if you've got a new boat, you have much lighter qualifying than if you've got a second-hand boat. And the Vendée Globe is oversubscribed, and there's going to be, even though there's 40 boats allowed for the next Vendée Globe, there are more boats wanting to do the race. So for the first 13 boats, new boats, there will be it's more of like a mileage qualification than a performance qualification. But even then, even then we have to make sure that we actually get to the finish and do a certain number of miles with the boats. And yeah, I think it's a great package. The designer of the boat is Sam Manoir. He designed the latest Charal, which we've seen has some serious potential, judging by its performance in the Riga run in its first race. And I like the Manoir philosophy. I mean, I've known Sam since my days of sailing minis, and I do really like his very pragmatic approach. His boats are always very powerful, but it means that in solo racing, particularly in the Southern Ocean, I think they really do give you that stable platform that you can push to squeeze the maximum out of the boat. And yeah, I think he being an amazing sailor himself, he actually does apply a lot of the sort of more practical needs towards the design philosophy of a boat, such as trying to basically make sure that you're not just going to be hosed every time you go on deck, and something you can effectively put the pilot on and sleep and ensure that you're going to be up there with the polars. So yeah, I had this opportunity to go for the Manoir, and went for it, and I think it'll be a great package for us.
So we know your background. You come through the minis, you come through the class 40s. That's where we met, obviously, in that part of your career. Have you done any IMOCA foil sailing on the latest foiling boats? I mean, obviously you must have some sort of like idea of what you're getting yourself into here.
That's my plan this year, is to get my feet wet.
Okay, cool.
And I haven't had a lot of experience on the latest generation of foilers. It was more the previous generation. I've done a bit of sailing on. So the plan really this year is to actually do some miles on the latest generation boats, find out about the sail configuration, what works well with the latest foilers, and yeah, I mean, you've seen from some of the images on the Ocean Racer. They can be they're pretty thoroughbred machines. They they're boats that you can't really make mistakes in. You're at high average speeds, and these boats are clearly like foiling almost permanently now. And yeah, you've got to make sure that I guess before you and I like this philosophy, I suppose, with all my races. It's just packing as much training as possible, so that when you actually go out and do your solo races, you can almost sail the boat with your eyes closed.
I guess on paper, Manoir's got obviously what and how the boat should be sailed, but have you got any affiliations with any of the existing teams that you can tap into?
Well, we have the Maitre Coq team. We're in La Rochelle.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So yeah, I know the guys from the Maitre Coq team, and that'll be really good actually, because we will be able to hopefully do some two-boat training together. And obviously, they are a little bit of a step ahead of us. Well, firstly, they have a boat in the water. Secondly, Yannick has a bit of experience under his belt in IMOCA and success. And I think they're going to have their boat pretty hooked up by the time we get ours in the water. So they will be a big step ahead of us. But certainly for the next few years, I think it'll be an amazing reference for us, as we're going to be having our base in La Rochelle, as opposed to most of the teams which are centered around Lorient.
You mean you're one of the blokes or people, I should say, that has immersed themselves into the French scene. Obviously, that's important, but it is a very French-centric sort of event, if you like. But there is more internationals coming in. How are you finding that? Because we had, I don't know if you know, but we had a guy by the name of Scott Shaw on a couple of weeks ago, who's from Canada, who's immersing himself in and doing everything he can to be a part of potentially the 2028. And it's one of the things he noticed straight away is that they are very helpful and they are very welcoming, but there's also that element of this is our area, like we love this and we want to try and keep control of this. Is that?
Yeah, I think if you were going to turn up with a 60 in Lorient today, it would be pretty difficult, because it's saturated. It really is. And I'm not saying that people wouldn't be friendly, but first you'll have issues just getting a berth, and then actually getting immersed in an existing training center. You can't just expect to sort of rock up and then jump in and jump out. So I think you've really got to be committed to a training center, to sharing data, and if you have a center, offshore sailing center, and I've experienced this at Figaro, that is just too big and too crowded, then people really start finding it difficult to share stuff, and it's much less of like an open innovation space. So the good thing about La Rochelle is there's not that many teams here. There's only one new boat that's going to be based here. So
it's not in Brittany.
It's not in Brittany. It rains a lot less, and we get spring about a month earlier than Brittany. Yeah, I mean, I figured, if I was going to leave the UK and head to France, I might as well go somewhere nice.
Take a decent leap as opposed to just across the river.
which it literally is. Yeah, it's like an hour ferry ride to Brittany from Jersey. So it's like, yeah, it's just dangerously close. So yeah, we.
But you're feeling. I guess the point is you're feeling, immersed. You're feeling welcomed, and you're feeling that this is going to be the right path. I mean, you're feeling good.
Yes, I think we've got some great support where we're down here, and I think there's support from the local agglomeration, and also the the department is very supportive to other international teams coming in. So no, it's very welcoming down here. We haven't been told to clear out yet, and yeah, we have also, you know, our fuel cell company already established here anyway, which is getting some strong regional support, so that helps. And yeah, I wasn't told to leave when Brexit happened, so it's all looking okay. It's all looking fairly stable for now.
Oh, so you're holding your British passport as well, so just as is.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I've got that permanently fixed to me in case I need it at any time. And
perfect. Oh, well, no, that's good. I'm heading over to Europe that way, so I've got a British passport, so at least I know it still works.
So all things being equal, Phil, you get by through this year, new boat launched, all the qualifications and stuff, and then literally you're into it. I mean, the timeline's not massive, is it?
No, it's a pretty brutal year leading up to the Vendée, actually, because we've got two transatlantic races this year in a new boat, which will not be that tried and tested. And then next year, you've got the Transat, which is basically one of the, you know, that I guess one of the it is the toughest of the transatlantic races by a country mile, I'd say. And that's, you know, going upwind against the elements, against everything that is throwing itself across the Atlantic around April, May time. And then you've got the New York Vendée single-handed race coming back just after, which literally leaves a couple of weeks after you arrive absolutely broken in Charleston after the Transat. And then yeah, you've got a couple of months recovery, and then you've got to do the Vendée Globe just as a
just because you can.
Probably be due to fill up the hydrogen again by then as well. Be out 3 litres worth there by the sounds.
We might need a couple of tanks by then. Yeah, might need another couple of kilos for the Vendée just to make sure we're all good.
Bill, you're an analytical mind. You don't become an engineer without, you know, clearly you've got a brain that's thinking about things. You're going into this venture not just for the green energy thing, but, you know, you're a competitive sailor. You know, you've definitely had some results. So the question I have for you from an analytical process, you're based where you can see the boats. You've got the ocean race going on. There's a lot of stuff that you can be observing at the moment. Is there something that's jumping out at you? Are there things that you're really starting to notice, you know, like whether it's foil shape or size or the way they sail the boats, or is there something that's sort of starting to gel where you go, oh, hang on, we might try that? And of course, if it's a secret, keep it to yourself, but you know, I'm interested.
Apart from not doing 3 laps around Table Bay prior to a 12,000 mile leg in 40 knots.
Well, you know, I kind of hate sitting still and not looking at better ways to do things. But it's fair to say that most of the design choices for our boat are locked in, apart from the sails. So it's quite difficult to, for example, try to have maybe our rudders foiling instead of the as well as the front foils foiling.
Yep.
And go a bit wacky on the foiling side. I really think there are some things to do that though. I don't know if you've seen the latest Chorale, but they're actually using the rudders now to lift the boat, the transom out of the water.
Yeah.
Which is a manual innovation, just may I add. But we're kind of going, we're sort of keeping it simple, and not trying to do anything too untested and clever for the time being. But you know, I think that said, there's definitely, I mean, looking at some of the boats, and you might have seen some of the drone footage from the Southern Ocean recently. There was some from Holston the other day, but it's, you know, it's clear these new boats are still, you know, very, very wet boats, and they are bearing their bows a lot. They're losing a lot of speeds when they hit the bottom of the waves, and I think anything that can be done to really keep the bow up out of the water, to keep the boat flying, so you can really push the boat harder in a sea state, it's got to be a massive plus. I mean, the boat, the Manoir design is a very kind of fat, scowy kind type of boat, and you know, it's interesting. It's been a modification. The modification we've made into the molds is to effectively have a much smoother entry at the front of the boat.
Yep.
So rather than, you know, going away from your classic
Almost
vertical bow shape,
Mm.
it really looks like, you know, a proper sled. And
to lift the bow up when it hits.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it means that really effectively, when you do collide with waves, you get more lift. You get you know, higher vertical force component, and it really does start lifting the bow earlier. And you know, that sort of bow up mode, I think, is going to be really important. And you know, and actually having control of the fore and aft, the equilibrium of the boat is great as well. You know, it's not fast to go and do nice showy wheelies all the way around the world. I mean, you've actually got to sail the boat pretty flat when you can, but at the same time, you know, you don't want to be stuffing into waves every 30 seconds because it just you know, your average speed takes a nosedive when you do that. So we're going to be working. We're modifying the ballast configuration quite heavily from the previous generation of boats.
Yep.
And there's not much we can do really on the foils. I think we're fairly happy with the foils. Incidentally, the foils that were destined to go on our boat are sailing around the world on Militia.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Correct.
So they basically stole our foils when they realised they had a massive problem after the Route de Rhum. And I was actually meant to go to the I actually met the guy who runs the foil machining process, and I was about to go and pay a visit, and he said, "Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, but the foils aren't here anymore because we sent them.
We sold them
for a boat in the ocean race." Yeah, like what?
That's funny. That's funny.
So yeah, no, it's nice to know that.
You matter.
Nice to know that like a 500 grand pair of foils that were destined for your boat are no longer there.
So just on the Manward stuff, sorry, the Chiral is, from memory, they're a little bit narrower than the majority of the latest boats that are out. Is that the path you're going down also?
Yes, it's a similar concept. I mean, we haven't been able to change the hull shape too much because we're using existing molds. So those molds built L'Occitane, which was the first Manoir boat, Initiative Kerr, which has recently been launched.
Yep.
But it's I mean, the concept is quite similar to Chiral in the fact it's not that wide. It's very you know, it's very slab-sided all the way to the front. Hence OceansLab. You know, that's what we call it.
Not bad. I like what you've done, Jordan.
Well done. You've started it, Jordan. Like to introduce Phil Sharp from OceansLab. OceansLab Racing.
Oh no, that's
it's going to stick, don't you, mate?
Like honestly, that had never crossed through my mind once, and no one else had ever said. And
but that's bar karate, mate.
You guys, and you've ripped it up completely.
Sorry, mate. Sorry. I only worked out about 5 minutes before the show that it was actually OceansLab. The whole time I've been going, OceansLab. Sorry, bud. I apologise. Continue.
No, it's no problem. It's completely too late now. But anyway.
Anyway, you're welcome. Fuck.
Damn.
We'll do a t-shirt merch, you know, people can just
that'd be great. Yeah, ocean on the top and then slab just underneath.
Yeah. Powered by Bar Karate. Powered by Bar Karate.
Should be good for the sponsors as well, I reckon.
Yeah, they'll love it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're all crying out for innovative merchandise.
Shape of the boat, slab-sided, you know, bit narrow, Chiral. Is there is that the sort of only difference? Is that where you're going, Bicey? Just that observation?
Yeah, just the Manward boats are a little bit narrower. It's which I've noticed. And then, of course, with that new rudder configuration that Chiral's running, like you say, to give a bit more lift in the back end of the boat as well. I mean, it's where are these boats going to stop? Is there going to be a 4.5 meter boat just relies on foils only?
Well, they're basically multi-hulls when you look at the boat sailing.
Yeah.
I mean, they're pretty much multi-hulls with the foils.
Correct.
But the the only issue is, right, if you lose your foil lift, in a wave or whatever, then you've got to have that form stability in the hull.
Yeah, to keep it up.
To really give you that sort of base righting moment.
Mm.
And yeah, the speeds the boats are going now, but also the reliance you still need, I think, on that hull stability, which is important when you're sailing ocean conditions. That scow shape is an enormous benefit to you because particularly when you're reaching, going upwind, you're really riding on one side of the hull, and you're riding on something that's aligned. You're not riding on a triangle. And so the drag reduction is interesting. It means you can have much more power as well when the boat's heeling. The form stability is therefore more interesting. So yeah, I mean, the scow concept, I think, has been very heavily proven in the Class 40s.
Yep.
I mean, just the difference between my generation of Class 40 and the scow generation. So the scow generation came in just after I left, and the difference was staggering. I mean, these guys were now doing averages of 18, 19 knots, sitting at 18, 19 knots comfortably, whereas we were sort of doing more 16 knots, 17 knots sometimes. But the scow boats, they don't even get wet. The water doesn't even go over the decks when they're up and running, when they're really sailing the boats hard. They're dry, and even reaching in 20 knots, comparing the speeds between the scow and the non-scow is it's a frightening difference. We would probably be doing 13 and a half knots in the second version of the max that I was sailing, and then in the scows they'll be doing 17, 18 knots.
Yeah,
so
wow.
And for the listener, these are non-foiler boats that we're talking about.
These are non-foiling boats. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. And I think what we saw in the last Fond Day was clearly that when you're really pushing the boats in the Southern Ocean, that the wave conditions are quite chaotic, particularly when you've got fronts with wind direction, which is totally different on the front side of the front to the back side of the front. And what this does is it throws up a quite chaotic sea state. And that, when you're effectively pushing the boat with foils through a very dynamic sea state, the foils just don't really work that efficiently because they've got their the angles changing the whole time. And so as you've seen, with the latest evolution of hull shape, the boats are a lot more scow type. They're more powerful hull shapes than I'd say the previous version of boats. And that's because effectively the boats are still very much hybrid boats, where we are really relying on that hull stability as well to push the boats hard and to make sure the boats are quick in the south in particular.
With your mechanical engineering background, did the plans get sent to you and you just went through it with a bit of a highlighter? Said, no, let's add a bit more here. Well, he's dropped off. All right, stand by, listeners. So what I'll ask you this, Jordan.
I think it's part of the computer.
He'll come back in.
Yeah.
You're a mechanical
engineer
at the moment, right?
Right. Okay.
You get sent the license, sent the drawings.
You know exactly what.
And you just rip it apart.
Absolutely.
I will add a little bit here. Take a little bit away here. I've done FEA here. I think this is the way we're going to go.
It must be hard for him not to sort of jump through and do exactly that, so from an engineer, but it was sort of a fait accompli for him. But, from my perspective, and I suspect what you would do, Bice, is that there would be the analysis of the structural element. Remember, we went through all that sort of discussion whether you could actually create a one design structural framework inside, so you don't have boats delaminating and breaking apart and all that sort of stuff. So
just
going on the ships. Yep.
Yeah. So that would be interesting. I'm I'm sympathetic for him because he made one mistake in his discussion just before where he said the only thing he hadn't resolved was the sales. And, you know, Bruno will be listening. We know Bruno will be listening. So the phone will be ringing tomorrow.
Here he is, Phil Sharp entering the room.
He'll have a whole set of sales added straight away by then. So, yeah.
Well, that's good.
Admitting now. Incoming.
Oh, I'm
So,
sorry about that.
thanks for the show, Phil. It's
Yeah.
great to meet.
We answered the rest of the questions for you.
That's
It's all
what I was
looking good.
Worried about. Very worried about that. Yeah,
We're all good.
No, I won't ask that question again. Okay.
Jordan
No,
answered.
but
answered
basically-
you didn't get a very
basically-
good reply for that one, did you?
No,
Yeah, basically where I was at, you know, did you get sent the drawings and you had a, you know, decent look over? Was there anything you picked up? Because obviously, you know, a bit of composite stuff as well. Was there anything in particular or something you wanted to concentrate a bit more on than not?
Well, yeah, the most the thing I noticed very quickly was that there's no helming position in the boat. Okay, so if you want to actually drive the boat, you've got nowhere to sit, and you couldn't see anything at all. So I was like, okay, I know these boats are designed to be sailed single-handed, but I mean, just from a sanity perspective, it's quite nice to be able to drive a boat occasionally. And it kind of goes back to the whole philosophy of why you do this in the first place. And
I like it. I like it.
It is fun to sail a boat, right? And you know, you've got to make sure that you can sit outside as well, a helm in the fresh air, get a wave over your head from time to time. I mean, you know, that's part of the sport, isn't it? So so instantly I realized that actually there was nowhere in the cockpit and in the roof design that would integrate a helming position. So yeah, I had quite a lot of highlighter came out and put crosses over the actual cockpit roof. So hopefully we're going to modify that quite extensively so we can get a comfortable helming position in there. And you know, it's also an observation place as well. I mean, the boats, let's face it, are quicker now with autopilots than helming the boat. So you are using the autopilot really for the whole performance benefit, and you know, you're driving the boats night and day with the pilot now. But you know, it is really nice to be able to have a clear vision of the sails, of the trim of the boat, and yeah, just to wake yourself up every now and again. It is nice to actually drive the boat as well.
We had Abby Eller on a couple of weeks ago, and she's talking about how the there's all the warnings and all the, you know, and there's these voices come on. It turns out that it's Kevin Escoffier's girlfriend on board that's giving the warnings to the boats and saying GPS malfunction or overload or this or that. I've kind of got you in this sort of situation where you're sailing solo in the middle of the Southern Ocean, and you get up and you've been sort of at sea now for a couple of months, and you go, no, righto, you're all shutting off. I'm going to go for a sail. And you go and sit in your little steering seat and have a little drive, you know, and enjoy yourself.
Bit of a pity to build
alarms off.
Yeah, turn
bit
everything
of a pity
off
to build a multi-million-dollar sailing vessel
and not
and
sail.
like you say, are not being allowed to drive it.
Yeah,
and
I'm with you.
Samuel might have drawn in one of those fake steering wheels, you know, that you put on the back of the driver's seat for your kids in the back to kind of make out. But
bit like Maggie from Simpsons. Honk,
honk.
honk.
Pity, right?
Yeah, it was a bit like that when I went on board Initiative Kerr, because I said, you know, I was like, well, where's the tiller? And there's, oh yeah, well, that's just you know, we keep that that's off the boat most of the time. We just keep that stowed here, the tiller. So it's almost like, you know, you come down to the boat and see a tiller, but it's not actually, you know, it's not used. You know, it's probably just made of plastic or something. You know?
I'd love to, a little Fisher Price one. Like one of those Fisher Price. You know, how some laser sailors used to have the golf stick on there.
Yeah,
this is actually the Fisher Price plastic golf stick that they use. But
yeah, exactly.
what I'd like to
see, do something and start pulling the helmet, it just breaks off.
You're a smart guy, Phil. And what I'd like to see is, as you're coming up the Atlantic, finalizing, and you know, you're in the podium position in the Vendée, is to jettison off the whole cockpit roof, and just steer the boat normally how it should be sailed, just for that last little bit.
Yeah, that last little nice warm tropical passage over the North Atlantic.
Yeah, exactly.
January.
It should be pretty good.
Yeah.
25 knots of boat speed, you know.
It's basically the only time you really need it.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's I've kind of been toying with the idea because it's not set in the cockpit at the moment, and I've basically been arguing with the designers and the boat yard. Is like I'm saying I need more open space, and they're like, no, but you'll just be soaked the whole time. You'd have too much water in the cockpit. And I was like, yeah, but I need some fresh air. You know, I need to feel like I'm actually on a boat and not locked in locked in a video game. And so we're kind of going through those discussions at the moment, and I hope I win. But yeah, you're right. If you invest $5.5 million in a boat, you actually want to hopefully have the chance to drive it occasionally. You know,
It's if you don't, then really are you just not doing an electronic game? Like you're not that far removed from e-sailing, are you? So
no, that's right, because you're not exactly. So and you're not really getting that wet on the boats as well. I mean, I absolutely love the difference. I mean, unfortunately, we haven't got the Volvo 65s in the ocean race anymore, but I did love the difference between the videos where they started showing clips on the 65s, and these guys just getting relentlessly hosed.
yeah.
And you know, unable to splattering seawater, and it just looks like, you know, full on conditions. And then they switch to the IMOCAs, and basically everyone's in pajamas, thermals.
Got their on Wholesome, they got their smoking jackets on, playing a game of cards,
Having some cheese. Kevin's lighting up a couple of bungers.
They're having way too much sleep on that boat.
Yeah.
They reckon they're having 5 to 6 hours sleep.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
too
double
much.
what I'm used to on a sailing boat, offshore conditions anyway.
Yeah, well,
But yeah,
I mean, you know,
those guys have got a lot of time on their hands.
you sort of mentioned about how you're not getting wet on the boats, and that's what the design is. And we talked about e-sailing. I got to say, I'm on my 3rd trip around the world in e-sailing at the moment.
Still
and
on the same first
Yeah,
race.
that's same race from fucking 4 years ago, mate.
Yeah, but I'm still not getting wet either. I think, you know.
It is that. It's definitely that.
No,
Hey,
that's why you're not looking that tanned.
Mate, we're sort of near the end of our time. I just want to ask, as a sort of final question, what's the most fun sort of bit of sailing you've had, where you've just gone, this is it, this is what it's all about, given you're going to a situation where you'll just be in a cave and not being able to touch anything?
Oh, I think the channel record I did was right up there. So that was I decided to try and break the outright monohull record for the English Channel, and I did that with the that with the last class 40.
Yep.
And I was looking at a window. I wanted to do it in winter because it's the only real opening you have with some pretty consistent breeze. And I saw this window in December, and managed to get the boat over to Cowes to prepare for this weather window, because it was going to be northeasterlies, like strong northeasterlies. And instead of being about 30 knots average wind speed, the forecast deteriorated, and it was about 40 knots forecast when I set off eventually. And it was just like the most unbelievable day. It was actually a really fast day, but the boat was absolutely alive. The whole trip across the across the channel, the boat was doing about 18, 19 knots with the tide, and it was just, one of those just like really wild days out where you kind of had I suppose you knew that you were going to get a hot shower at the end of it, and you could just push like ridiculously hard, and the boat was just so hooked up and really in its element, and I helmed pretty much the whole way across, and it was just it's just one of the most amazing days out, and actually to cross the finishing line in Dinard 9 hours later.
What was the exact time? What was the
experience.
exact time? Do you remember?
It was 9 hours and 3 minutes, I think. It was an average speed of 15.
Jordan, can you confirm that, Jordan?
From memory, Jordan?
Yeah, I can't remember that one, I'm afraid. So normally I can get it to
Well,
the
you
second.
didn't follow that. You didn't follow that.
No,
record.
we'd followed it, but normally he knows all the numbers, and
Off the
we
top
just
of my head, yeah.
yeah, we've caught him out with this one. But no,
Yeah.
I definitely
Knew as
followed it.
soon as you started talking about, oh shit.
No, I followed it.
Well, it actually went quite wrong at the beginning because I was going past Hurst Fort and I got hit by a massive gust and I had the kite up and the boat just completely wiped out and I was laying on my side for about 5 minutes with the sails flapping, like all the sheets dumped, and I had literally like land floating past. I was floating past Hurst Castle, which was only about sort of 30-40 meters away from me. So I had land literally just there. and then it's the narrowest point of the Solent effectively when you're coming out, and I had this, I was in this full-blown gale effectively with a boat lying on its side thinking hopefully something gets better.
Right, as Jordan alluded to, getting close to the end, so I've got one fine. It's not necessarily a question, or you can take it as you want, but to see yacht racing get to a complete clean energy situation, is it just going to take fossil fuels have to be banned completely, and then the solutions will be found because there's no other choice?
I think that's probably one of the solutions that we might have to move towards. I think the other is to put in zero emission zones, so low emission zones, zero emission zones, or ultra low emission zones, where you simply just cannot have your engine running within a certain distance from the coast initially. And that means I think that will force people into electric drives, which is the first big step, where people have an electric drive and they might have a diesel generator as well in the boat. And then I think hydrogen fuel cells is the logical step once you have an electric drive in the boat, because if you're really going all that way and you're putting that much investment into changing the whole drive setup of the boat, you might as well go the full you might as well go full circle and have the fuel cell and the hydrogen there as well. So yeah, I mean, I think we'll have to see a lot more tax, I think, on fossil fuels. So I think carbon tax will have to, I think that will make the difference. I really think, once we've got a lot of carbon tax and we're going to see like that coming in more in 2025 onwards, people will realize actually it's cheaper just to have a electric propulsion system. And our drive really is to reduce the price of the fuel cells as quickly as possible, so that it's accessible to marine leisure users, not just commercial vessels, and move people away from engine sailing. Which,
that was going to be my exact question, my exact last question as well. I've obviously looked at these options, and as you know, over the last couple of years, there is a couple of options, but they're extremely expensive. We know that, well, compared to putting in a Volvo Penta D113, they're pretty expensive options, and obviously that is a big key player to this. And you're saying that carbon tax is going to sort of level the playing field, if you like. Do you see it as the technology becomes more accessible and as it gets more knowledgeable and as more people use it, it's going to come down? It's like the old VHS or beta video players in the old days. They were ridiculously priced until everyone had one. Yeah, well,
unfortunately, I'm a bit too young to know that they used to be expensive in the first place. But it's exactly. Sorry, I had to add that. But it's exactly like that introduction to new technology. It's always very overpriced because it's not mass produced, and there's not very. At the moment, for producing hydrogen, it's expensive because the electrolyzers are not that big. But the number of huge projects that are now going in for large scale electrolysis for producing low cost green hydrogen is incredible. And I know there's a lot of projects down in Australia for that as well. There's some, and I think we'll even be importing green hydrogen from Australia at some stage to Europe. Currently we're seeing hydrogen at like 15 euros a kilo, but that's going to rapidly drop below 10 euros a kilo to 5 euros a kilo over the next few years. You know, what the hell does that mean? Well, it kind of means that when you compare it against diesel, you'd see diesel start to be more expensive than hydrogen, probably even in 3 years' time, I would say, with the addition of carbon tax. And then you have to take into account that, you know, the boats are more efficient if you're running with hydrogen fuel cell than diesel engines. So, you know, if you look at that efficiency, the cost of the fuel, it works out that it'd actually be cheaper to run a vessel on hydrogen than diesel from 3-4 years time.
So what you're saying is the investment of the product itself is going to pay for itself in the long run, which is kind of normal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's it, exactly. Even though we've got a higher investment for the technology, for fuel cells, for electric drives, it's for a vessel that's being used regularly, particularly for a commercial craft, it makes absolute sense to make that investment today, because you're going to be ready for when those prices, those fuel prices do rocket up, and the price of green hydrogen is going to be coming down drastically over the next 2-3 years.
Hydrogen fuel cell in the Defender, eh?
Yeah, that's it.
The 1951 series 1.
1950.
I would love to see a hydrogen Defender.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Seen an electric one.
Yeah. It's going to happen.
It's pretty cool.
Phil, I think what we're going to do, my friend, is that we're into it. We're 100% into it. We're 100% into your boat. So I'm guessing around August, September, we're going to come back and, you know, basically we're going to come up for a yacht and go sailing with you. And, you know, we want to sort of follow your program. So if you're keen, we'll bring you back in there and get a bit more detail once you've worked out whether you've got a tiller or not and where you're going to sit.
We'll put a sticker on you, Mason.
Yeah. But yeah,
Right,
Barcarati,
okay.
OceansLab.
This is going.
we're 100%
OceansLab.
behind OceansLab.
I'll leave some place for your stickers and branding. Don't worry.
Oh, that'll be part of the merch pack, which shouldn't be far away.
You guys are so generous. Well, you know, I can't possibly refuse that invite. No, it'd be great to keep you guys in the loop and updated with
Absolutely.
with progress.
No, definitely do that. And you know, we're all for it. So as I said, you know, we're really interested in your story, and I think the rest of the world is. So use this, and use us. Absolutely.
Right.
We're used to
Thanks,
that.
guys. It's been great. It's been a great discussion. Thanks for inviting me on again, and we'll keep in touch. We're getting all the hydrogen tech in the boat in June, and then we'll have the launch in August. So we'll keep in radio and
Absolutely
give you the latest news from our side.
Excellent.
I like it. Cheers,
Good
mate.
on you, mate. Cheers, mate.
Thanks.
Oh, mate, I can't believe I started calling it OceansLab.
The OceansLab.
I mean,
it means a lot for us in Oz, right?
Yeah.
But as we mentioned during the talk, a slab of beer is basically a carton of beer here.
Yeah, that's it.
So actually, I've got a little one on that.
Yeah.
Just whilst we're on the banter, back in the day, we just finished building all the boatyard containers, and I thought, why not have a little bit of a party? So I told one of our Spanish friends to go get a couple of cartons of beer. And he came back with 2 6-packs.
Just knew it was coming. Language doesn't quite translate, does it? You know.
No. I'm not sure which translator you need to find for that one, though.
Yeah.
Hey, mate, he's got plenty going on.
Yeah, he's got plenty going on. But I'm really that boat. You know, like Sam Maynard boat. You know, like it's. It looks pretty cool. It's amazing how you just buy into a program. You know, I don't think people kind of get that concept as much as, you know, you can just buy straight into this program and away you go. Obviously, it's simple, you know, but
I guess, it's you're not building from the ground up, right?
Yeah.
And you see some classes, like in a TP52, and you say, that their designs are so refined now, when you go for a whatever Botine 52, you're pretty much going to be on the pace straight away because the top of the triangle, so to speak.
Yep.
These boats are still a long way away from the top of the triangle, though. But at least you're starting with something. They're not hobby horsing all around the track now as they were when they first came out of the falls and all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
But the base of the triangle is still pretty broad, let's say. And we're obviously seeing that in the ocean race now.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll come back to that. I think we'll come back to that ocean race bit, but I wouldn't mind we'll talk about some of the club event stuff coming up. Go into our other news, and then we'll come back into that ocean race and sort of tie back into what Phil's going is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So from a club event perspective, we got a note from Mick Doherty on Instagram. So you wouldn't have seen it, Bicey, did you see?
No, I actually did see this one.
I'll read it. G'day, legends. Just like Dizzy Gillespie. You've probably overachieved on reaching the double ton. Oh, yep. Keep up the great work. Also finding it hard to track results from other classes. So I always enjoy getting the latest news, blah, blah, blah. Want to plug our local event, if that's okay. Easter Regatta, Lake Bulleen in Camperdown, Victoria. Open to all classes from juniors off the beach and sports boats and trailables. Great family event, camping on the lake with live band Saturday night. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Yep. Shout out to Will from Discount Yachting. There you go, Will. Free plug. In Geelong for getting board and supporting us. Facebook page, Yachting Western Victoria for more information. Facebook page, Yachting Western Victoria. On a side note, looking for some inspiration when it comes to trophies for regattas. You blokes have won a few in your day. What's the best or most unique, interesting trophy prize you have ever received for a sailing event?
That's a good one.
We'll make sure the trophy doesn't have holes in it. So when you drink a celebratory drink
for
out
starters,
of it.
Yeah, it's not just
works.
made of rings and all the champagne falls out.
Hey,
mate, it might be a clash though with the 75th Brisbane Gladstone over that weekend. Do you think you could get old mate from Foxtel from KO to actually move the broadcast?
No, I'm afraid not. Yeah.
That's a good one for the listeners though, as to what they think a good
trophy might be.
A good trophy might be, or one of the best trophies that you've won. How about you, Jordan? Anything come to mind?
Well, I was just thinking the 5As used to have the Peter Pista's Perpetual Trophy for Persistence, and and it was an old timber toilet seat that you'd win. So it was basically, it went to the boat that didn't retire from any races, but sort of came last. So so it never stopped, just kept going, and it was great. It was a good one, but it was an old toilet seat, which it was beautiful timber, lacquered, lots of badges on it. Didn't win that one, but I'm just trying to think.
Other like Sharpie class have some good ones for sure. Without a doubt, probably I can't remember specifically, but the Rainbow class, they probably would have had the best. I can't remember exactly what it was.
It's a pot of gold, mate. Pot of gold.
The lasers, pot of gold, sure. There's a good one. Or a pot of ashes from all the rainbows that have been burnt. Yeah. Probably the Ocean Race or Volvo Race globes. They're pretty nice.
Yeah.
Can't do much with them.
Yeah.
And they, because they're just glass. They're not too good at bocce either, just quietly.
No.
And what's the Jules Verne trophy? Remember that one? We spoke about that big Jules Verne trophy.
Yeah, that's right. I can't remember what it was now. But it was something really impressive.
Was it a big? I'm going to say it's a big art piece almost.
Yeah. I think it was floating in something or some. Anyway, but
correct.
Go with what? For Mick, you're just going to have a bit of fun. You Victorians like a boomerang or something. I don't know. You're down there.
Boomerang.
Just catch a koala bear and start screwing it onto them or something. I don't know.
Slab of VB.
Slab of VB. The other one we got was from Wesley Bemis. It's a long way out, but want to pimp it early. So for Marblehead to Halifax Ocean Race, Marblehead to Halifax Ocean Race is coming up for the first time after COVID. Last round in 2019 with 65 boats. The 23 start is in July. Already 75 boats signed up. Should be a good one. Couldn't run in 21 because the Canadian border was closed due to COVID. 363 nautical miles. It's cold, foggy, and boats hit whales all the time.
Sounds divine. Greenies would love this one.
So far, the biggest boat's the 68-foot Allegra. Yeah, and then a whole bunch of banter about why all the East Coast US races end up in Commonwealth countries like in the Newport to Bermuda, Marblehead to Halifax, Miami to Jamaica. It's the theory is that only the best skippers come out of those Commonwealth countries, and they want to try and pilfer them into the States. So that's a bit of banter there. But yeah, that'll be good, you know. Like, I think that'll be a good one. Yeah. But if you are a bit of ocean racing, that'd be good. Going north, hitting whales, bouncing off whales all the way.
If that's what you're into.
Yeah.
Best you sign up.
Has a certain amount of appeal, I guess. Yeah. I guess we have to go into the Jack Lloyd Listener of the Week. This is a good one. Man, we've had some emails this week which have been really good. We have absolutely been inundated. We mentioned we like ice boat racing. Every week now we're just getting heaps of ice boat stuff and we love it. We absolutely love it. So I do want to thank everyone that's sending through. But we got from our mate Chris Bolger, Chris Bolger. Okay, I'm sitting in LA for a layover between Sydney and Boston. A little worse for you. After 6 glorious days in Sydney, including 3 days on the JJ Spectator Ferry, so that's the 18-foot skiffs. And now I know why you guys call yourselves idiots, because you don't have a clue how good you have it. Here's how I got to Sydney. Our niece got married in Auckland in February. Well, that's not even in Australia there, Chris. I don't know.
Eastern Australia.
Yeah, Eastern Australia. Wife rewarded my good behaviour with a wedding. At the wedding was 6 days in Sydney, and the greatest vacation ever for a sailing fan. We stayed at Intercontinental on Double Bay. Oh, we all know that one. 2 blocks from the 18-footers. Great neighbourhood. Only is the Intercontinental that one where you got banned for not being drunk, Bossy? Do you remember? What was the what pub?
Yeah, I wasn't allowed up onto the top floor. You're not drunk enough, sir. You haven't had enough amphetamines. Sorry.
2 blocks from the 18-footers, great neighbourhood, 10 minutes down to Bondi, went to the beach, but before the JJs, one night we went to the Symphony, iconic Sydney Opera after racing. Yeah, he has had a good time on you, Chris. I am pretty sure the 18-foot JJ Gilton is the best spectator event in sailing. I've sailed a bunch. I've watched the America's Cup, Sail GP, Stars, Sailors League, Olympics. Nothing comes close to the fast, fun, photogenic, open atmosphere of the JJs. You've got a great athletes, cutting-edge technology, over 20 boats in close racing, simple formula, great sailing, unparalleled success, open hospitality, best event. Sure, watching on the YouTube is great, thanks to the winning family, but for being there's a whole different level. Pre-race, sitting there watching the rigging in the boat park. I'm sitting next to Ian Murray and Stevie Jarvin while they're strategizing the day's racing. How good is that? These guys are the top of the sport. I just had bloody breakfast with Ian Murray, so there you go. Try getting that access to any other world-class event. So much better than the stage pre-race presser. Then stroll down the pier, have a chat. And when I say I had breakfast, Ian Murray, I watched him line up for coffee for about 20 minutes.
Yeah, I was going to just name drop it, are you?
Yeah.
Was Richie McCaw there as well? Giving you
actually, Richie
you are
was
in New
there.
Zealand.
Yeah, I said, he's obviously looking for me. Yeah.
Dan Carter. Is that
I didn't see
anyone
Dan,
see
yeah.
Jordan Spencer?
Yeah.
Anyone seen him around?
Anyway, he goes on and on, but and reads like a travel brochure, and he's just had an absolute ball, it sounds like. So after the racing, he went back into the club. You know, they don't lock you out. It was like he went onto the spectator boat, which is an old double wooden ferry. It is a pretty good thing. So appreciate that email. It was just, I had to speed past, but perfect holiday for a sailing fan, more than worth the damage of 20 hours of travel from Boston. Welcome to our world, my friend. We get to do that travel. So that was pretty cool. As I said, we got heaps of messages about ice boating. but I thought that and then the other one we got, this is of interest. It's on Insta, so again, you wouldn't be on it. So our mate Ed Nolan, who sends in a lot, he gave some performance reviews on the X2.
Yes. Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yep.
Yep. So basically, not
Basically,
quite
it
as
smokes downwind.
not quite as
Yep.
fast as a 3,300 upwind. So a 30-footer versus a 33-footer probably.
Yeah.
But we smoked them downwind when the spinny was hoisted the right way around.
Yeah. And that was a series of shots that he sent through, right?
Yeah, a whole
Yeah.
bunch of
Yeah.
So that was interesting. It was first signs because we got boats starting to sail, those X2s starting to sail. Just yeah.
And then the other one, let's not forget Drew Harper, who we've heard from before, who's basically given a shout out if any of us are going to the Sail GP. So on behalf of Drew, why not invite the whole of the Bar Karate fraternity back to Drew's Santa Cruz 50?
Yeah.
You might end up with a few on your boat, mate. But basically, if you're coming over, give us a holler.
This is San Francisco he's talking about.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
in San Fran. Yeah.
Yeah, not
he loved the 200th, especially about the helium beer. So that little replay, which was always fun. And I mean, there's a whole lot more going into it, but no chat GPT for this one, GPT. So Siri dictated this. He dictated. Okay. Siri took the notes.
Cool. Should we talk about Sail GP while we're sort of brought it up?
Yeah, it's a hot time with Jordan.
Hot time. I've got my Sail GP shirt. Yeah. Actually, hang on.
It's hot time with Bice.
Jordan.
What have you got, Bicey? What should we talk about?
Well, there's been a bit going on, and you'll get the link here shortly. Of course, Sail GP going on, which we'll talk about. But also there's a link going into the 18-footers, the JJs. So that'll come out. But hit us with it. What's happening in K1W1 land?
Well, we're in Christchurch, which is the Southern Island. It's the city that suffered a lot from. They had a big earthquake here many years ago, and did a lot of damage. And it's a small city, and then we're about 20 minutes out of the city at a little place called Littleton. And trying to imagine Littleton, it's sort of like a little bit if the cliff walls at Garda had fallen over sideways just a little bit. It sort of has a Garda feel about it, like a
bit of a valley.
Yeah, a little bit of a valley that it sits in. So the wind funnels down it, and it's glamour, mate. It's glamour. It's we're in New Zealand, which is a very beautiful country, and surrounded by Kiwis. In all honesty, Kiwis are just so much fun to hang out with, and we're I'm spending a lot of time with Kiwis, and one of the things I do on Sail GP is I do these sort of VIP tours and take some guests through the pits, basically go through all the team bases and explain all the technology and blah, blah, blah. And it's so easy to do with the Kiwis because nearly all of them sail, so you can talk at a much higher language.
Plus they've been around it for a longer time with the America's Cups taking place, like it's much more higher on the radar.
Yeah.
So like you say, the language is much easier. And, let's face it, also the Eastern Australians, we kind of talk the same language.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because one of the things is I always ask, which team you're supporting, and everyone goes, New Zealand. And I said, all right, well, if I took New Zealand out of the equation, what team next? And a lot of them say Australia. They absolutely do back Australia. And so it's been a lot of fun. On the stage when I host, I do have to do a little bit of hosting on the stage where we set up the whole day for all the guests. And with Australia, it comes up with the leaderboard. And the whole East Australian joke. Well, I did the reverse.
The Western Kiwis.
West Kiwis who are leading, and they've got So that was good. People like that. But so we're recording this Sunday morning. So day 2 hasn't happened yet, but yesterday it was pretty impressive performance from the Kiwis. Now, just, like from
just before you chat on that, generally the format is there's a practice day on the Friday.
Yes.
Then which is
practice racing,
full, but it's filmed as well, right? In case there is a case you missed the final day.
That's correct.
But that got blown out the water, that one.
That is correct. Yes. It did get blown out of the water, but it didn't end up being super windy. But I think the forecast was 30 to 40 knots, and given that it sort of could funnel down that river, and it was from the worst possible direction, so nor'wester for this setup, from what I understand. So they decided not to train, but the banter that is going through the boat park is that the Kiwis got out for a training session the day before, the only ones that got to do some training, whether that was their choice or the others. But anyway, right. But before the start, when you're watching the boat set up, the Kiwis, their setup just looked fast. Like
just dialed in from
it looked right, it looked just that bit right. And they were on the light wind foils and medium wing, and they were definitely at the top of the range for those light wind foils, and the Kiwis were absolutely handling it better than anyone else. And they had speed to burn, absolutely speed to burn. They were clearly the fastest boat out there. I was interested going into the race. So obviously, if you're the Aussies, right, you got one more event before you get to the final. There's the Aussies can't get knocked out of the final. They're going to be in the final, but the Kiwis, I think it's like the Kiwis are 64 points and the French are 63 and GBR 61, so the Kiwis are in touch, right?
Yeah.
If the Aussies didn't want to have the Kiwis making the final, they could just stop them. They could make sure that they.
Oh,
yeah. Well, they could. That Aussies can sacrifice this event and chase the Kiwis off the course, basically, and if that's what they wanted to do. And so there was
had you suggested this?
This
like
little bit of this banter may have been mentioned, yes, and it was definitely a consideration. And that first start, I was watching just to see, because you sort of saw the Aussies. They like to set up down low near the bottom of the start line. And then the Kiwis sort of started coming down there, and they've just gone, and turned it right back and went up to the complete opposite end. And it was clearly throughout the day, the Kiwis were staying as far away from the Aussies as possible.
Yeah,
that was really obvious.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would have happened, like it's a good bit of banter, but if that would have happened, there are definitely, some of the skippers would, I reckon. I mean, the intensity, much as I love Pete, I reckon he could do it potentially. He would do it if it was the opposite that was reversed. There's, Phil Robertson would 100% do it. I think, there's, Spitter would do it, I think. And I would suspect that Tommy would do it if pushed. I think Slingers would do it. I think they're pretty intense individuals, they like winning.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that was one
Let's
of the
face it, in San Fran, it's all to play for, right? Which has been,
bucks, mate.
Tom's been quite critical of that particular format up until now. But at the end of the day, that is the format. And you're going to give it your best chance to win it. So if you are listening to this now and the Kiwis have been sailed off the course by the Aussies, you can blame Jordan Spencer.
You can't blame me. Anyway, but yeah, so that was pretty interesting. And so looking at the results, so day one in, the Kiwis, I think they had a 2-1-2. It looked pretty good. The Canadians 5-3-1. They were sailing well. The French looked good. They won the first race. They ended up their fourth overall, but they had 1-6-5. And then the Poms 3-4-3. One of the things that it's really evident with the Poms is that they're very, very consistent. You go back through all their results, they're always consistent, and that is quite interesting.
So basically just on the podium in all races almost. Of course, one you haven't mentioned there is the Central Australians, just the Aussies in general. We've mentioned the Northern Australians.
They looked average. I hate to say it, they looked average.
Do you blame them?
Uh,
They would have had the biggest party of their life as a team alongside their teammate Sam Newton last week, winning the JJs. So
you reckon?
could be a little rough around the edges potentially.
They had Tommy's wedding, then they had the JJs, so 2 weeks of celebrating. But then Pete Berlin got married last weekend, so they all went away for a couple of days and had a full on.
Oh, I heard that their honeymoon's down in Lillington. with about 20,000 of his best mates.
he's got he's under some pressure. You should see it, mate. Like with all the people trying to take photos, right? Like normally it's just not even close. Like in Australia you see the Aussies getting hammered, but in New Zealand, my God, are the Kiwis passionate about the Kiwis. Pete and Blair and those
Pete
boys.
and Blair, absolutely.
Like the whole team.
During the discussion with Blair, of course, last week, they would rank up there amongst any other sportsman. Like Australia struggled to, yes, John Bertram, like names like that, but we don't even get close as far as ranking up there like the Kiwis do.
No, that's right. Exactly right. They're probably the most popular sportsmen.
I mean, Ben Ainsley in the UK is probably on par. But still, as a recognised sport and recognised sportsman, you probably don't do it any better than the land of the long white cloud.
Yeah, no, they're going great guns. But yeah, it's been good. We'll see how it goes. But the Aussies are definitely off the pace, and I think they snapped one of the elevators on their rudder in that last race. So
wasn't a dolphin, was it?
I don't think so. There was no dolphins on the course. They were waited till they were moved off. The Hector dolphins.
The Hectors, yeah, right.
Yeah, the little Hectors.
They look like equivalent to a wombat. They got pretty hard scones, apparently.
Dear. All right, moving on. Do you want to throw, or do you want me to throw that?
Well, no, we can just go to the JJs actually.
Oh yeah,
whilst we're kind of talking about it. Yeah. We didn't quite have the last day in the bag as of when we recorded last week. Yep. So for those that don't know the results, Ando took it out quite convincingly in the end with a basically by 10 or 11 points with a drop. 6 points. Finport Finance, second. Smeg, third. Rag, fourth. Note Sailing, Big Pete, fifth, which, as mentioned last week, to me was probably quite an outstanding result. Sean's now 61 or 62. Skippering that boat. He's surrounded by some shit yachties, of course. But they were fast on the racetrack. They had they applied for redress in one race.
Yep.
They won the protest, but didn't get redress, which would have seen them. So a little bit of controversy.
A lot of bit of controversy. Would
have seen them up the leaderboard probably on the podium at some. But is what it is. That's 18-foot skiff yacht racing for you. But
friends,
as mentioned, listener of the week, it was a spectacle.
Chris, from Chris, yeah,
it was great.
Absolutely.
So,
and the best bit was if you go and look up on the 18's Facebook page, you'll see the dress up. They had dress up day for the award ceremony.
Yeah. What was Herman dressed as? Like a bloody
court jester.
Jester.
Yeah, court jester. Yeah, he was. And Sammy Newton was a little whale, like a blow up whale. It was quite funny. I reckon
24 boats battling it out on the harbour. This is one we need to go to, mate.
Yeah. Sure. I think let's do it. I'm in.
Put this on the agenda.
Cool, mate. I've had a major this week. We had a major. Now, guess you're going to hate me. I'm about to. It's mea culpa time. We worked hard. We bantered in the last episode about dialing straight out to Melitza on the water in the Southern Ocean. And I said, yeah, I'll sort that out. And I did. We did. We crossed live to Melitza. We had to use a different app to have the conversation than we normally use for.
They're not running Zoom on board?
Yeah, they're not running Zoom at the time, no. And so the record didn't work. So we had this amazing conversation for 20 minutes. It was insane. We were chatting to Roz on the Melitza boat, and you could hear everything. It was breaking in and out. It was just like the most perfect interview. And, you know, they gave time right in the middle of the race. So they're 150 miles from the gate off the bottom of Tasmania, and they were closing in, you know, they're literally right next to 11th hour. And she was describing what was going on with 11th hour as they were racing, because one of the things she was talking about was the shapes of their bow, because they've got more nose lift on Melitza, and 11th hour doesn't have as much. And she was saying that they had to have their windward fall out as well they reckon it was to hold the boat up, because she kept saying, oh, they're broaching, you know, and Melitza was on the edge of broaching, and you could hear it, oh, okay, we're good. And then, you know, Will was steering the boat, and there was a bit of banter backwards and forwards. And they were just smoking along to this gate trying to close it. And I asked for the rig setup. They had a fractional 0 up, a J2, a staysail, and a full main. And you could hear them right on the edge of a broach the whole time, in 25 knots. So they were just laying it out there. And, you know, they were saying, oh, 11th hour just, they literally just passed them. And she said, oh, they were broaching a lot.
Yes. Wow.
And so they gave that whole, they gave that whole sort of banter. And she was saying that, you know, on their watch system, that they're doing 30-minute turns on the autopilot, because they're just, you know, you steer with the autopilot, they're basically pushing a button, but, you know, the focus is so intense that that they had to sort of focus in on that. Then she talked about the noise. We could hear the noise on the boat, but it wasn't huge. And she talked about what they'd actually done once they got to Cape Town, is they beveled the edges of all the trailing edges of everything. To get rid of that wine. And she said it's made the boat a hell of a lot more comfortable to be on. So then we, you know, I asked, you know, well, me and BP asked, you know, was it fun? And she's absolutely loving it, mate. She's loving it. The whole team are having a great
you can
time.
tell, right?
Yeah.
And just I unfortunately I was not part of this. I was out on a bit of a family day trip, which ended later than normal. But by the time I got home, after driving home, I had 56 WhatsApp messages between Melitza and us, and trying to get the connections and all that sort of stuff. So, and then to hear that we lost the interview.
The recording, it's in the ether, mate. And I was devastated. I couldn't sleep that night. I was just going, oh my God. Like I tried, we'd recorded it just before I put the episode out. So I was going to roll it into last week's episode, and it was going to be perfect, you know, like you had Blair, and then you had
seamless.
It would have been the greatest bloody episode ever.
But back to Rosalind though.
Yeah.
If there's anyone on that racetrack right now during an interview, photos, whatever it is, who just looks absolutely beaming and sounds absolutely beaming and loving it, it's her.
Yeah. I think she'd be great on a boat. She brings a lot of fun. I mean, it's a good team too, you know, like, they got Boris, Nikolai, and Will, and her, and I can't remember the photographer's name, so apologies there, but, you know, they're having a good time. And I said, what are they missing most? What are they desperate for? And it's pizza.
Stroopwafel.
No, they want a pizza. 4-cheese pizza.
Well, mate, I don't want to say it again, but they missed their chance. They had the brisket on.
Exactly. This is the whole
So
conversation.
if they wanted a brisket,
it was ready.
Yeah.
So maybe if you'd had pizza, they would have at least turned up. But you can always ship in pizza. They've been putting their own little podcast together while they're on the boat. So
fantastic.
I think they'll upload it. So look up End of Watch, I think is their little podcast. They're all wearing these strange jumpers. They're putting ads up for all the shit they've got on the boat. Like they're making ads up and doing product reviews and all sorts of stuff, you know. And then did you get
to the bottom of the jumper wearing?
Yeah, not
the
really.
Pond skis.
They're weird, aren't they? But you know, I think they're going to do an ad for them as well. So if you want to find out more about them, you could listen to the podcast, you know, their podcast. But the thing that we've lost is obviously the breaking in and out of the conversation, BP and I having this really good chat, but it was super cool. The thing that really upset me is that they gave satellite time to us, so it would have cost them plenty of money to record this, and I stuffed it. So,
well, hopefully the downloading of this episode whilst they're on the boat outweighs the cost of the WhatsApp call, so they get a double whammy.
Well, if they do listen, sorry guys, we love you. Obviously the races come right back together though, boys.
Oh yes, they've hit the wall. So the grand Southern Ocean delivery at the moment is, and I say that with a bit of jest, of course, based on all they're trying to do is slow their boats down when it's windy, right?
Yep.
But you can't. They just keep going so quick.
So quick. Yeah.
But they've hit the wall.
They've
basically just sailed into a massive light patch, and they're just jibing and trying to find some more breeze. But and I had this criticism, and this is, well, not criticism, but given the ice gate or the exclusion zone, basically a restriction from going into any breeze at the moment.
And
actually there is a point which is north of Cape Horn that they've got to go around. So
north of Cape Horn. Wow. I haven't looked that far ahead. Ooh,
so the exclusion zone, it's going to be, it's at 50 south.
Wow.
And Cape Horn is like 56 or something. So
there must be some ice around.
Yeah. Whether it's ice or they, or there's a few flight delays and the Ocean Race team can't get there in time. They've just tried to slow the boats down.
Tom's here at the moment, so that's one. There's plenty of staff that
I know Coxie's
trying to do both
on the road in a couple of days' time, getting over there, setting things up. But if you have a look on the tracker, you'll see the exclusion zone, which is, well, I'm going to say it's almost 48 south.
It's a long way up, isn't it?
Yeah, correct. Which has some sailing, well, as opposed to just hooking into the bottom of some of the systems and getting there quick sticks.
Wholesome PRB, like you wouldn't have thought that they'd be back. They were actually lost the lead for a while there on the tracker, and you wouldn't have thought that it'd all come this far back. But they're all within 16 miles of each other as we talk at the moment. The good thing is Guyot is on its way to Itajaí. So we'll have the full fleet back together. That was good to see. Still loving it, into it. The only thing that's sort of given me the shits a little bit about the races, there's a lot of discussion about how we've got to fix this and we're fixing that. We didn't get that for those last two editions of the Ocean Race. And, like they were just pushing boats as hard as they could go. And so the fragility of the boats is sort of, I wish we could just.
I mean, we saw 11th hour, and one of the interviews that Charlie did, he was almost on the edge of taking the boat up to New Zealand to effect some repairs. And we're only going to really find out what those real issues were. We saw the issue with the mainsail.
The
fully broken, the main broken under reef one point, I think. Then, of course, the cracks in the rudders. Then how deep do they go? Is it just the blades? Is it the... But they're having all sorts by the sounds of things. So they just need to kind of get it there and push when they can and back off when they can. Just got to stay aligned, I guess.
Yeah. I just wish the boats were a little bit more solidly built, so they could really just smash them around. But anyway, that's just the way it is. Cool. Anything else, my friend?
Just checking my notes here.
The Flying 15 Worlds will start this week. I think they've had the pre-worlds, the Australian champs, and I would like to congratulate. Where am I? Missed the boat Floating McFloat Face for winning the pre-worlds. Graham Viles and Chris Turner, great name. Grant Oldis and Luke Patterson in El Toro second, and then ooh la la, Ian Pennell, my old mate Ian Pennell and Ian Cadwallader into the third. So that'll start off in Freo. That'll be good fun. That starts properly. But yeah, Floaty McFloatface. Gotta have the courage to play that game. Cool.
The only other one is worth mentioning, of course, is during the week we saw, well, amongst other things, we had the Victorian State Championships in the actuals last week.
Yep. Which
Fu Manchu, Mark Roberts, took out convincingly with a massive second day. John Bertram second, good friends of the show, Deuce, Snowdy, and Jesse third.
I can tell you on that drive across, Fritz, Rob Jewson hadn't actually heard the beer tasting.
Oh, really?
So I had dinner with Snowdy last night.
200th. Yeah, right.
Yeah, dinner with Snowdy last night. He said Fritz just lost it. Anyway, go on.
We're starting to see a bit of controversy come into the sport.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there always is a little.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a full stand-up protest, not a red flag protest, not flying the B flag.
Yep, B flag. That's correct. Yep.
But there was a protest held at the ILCAs, the ILCA Euros.
The Euros,
or for the lazy Europeans, for those that aren't up to date.
Yeah.
Basically, she was a stand-up protest.
Yeah,
the boat
crazy.
refused to go out, or
The fleet,
against what was it, race management, that they basically, if they spend time, it was based around, they spend a lot of time, a lot of money coming to these regattas, they need them to be professionally run in the sense of, so it's a dig at ILCA, is it a dig at race, at the club running it? Are there minimum standards that need to be looked at? Who knows? I was wondering if they were going to hold a hunger protest, but they've been doing that for the last 5 years. All those sailors. Oh, banana time! Oh, there's my alarm. Let have another banana.
Oh, dear. You idiot! Oh, dear. Well,
have we seen that in yachting before?
I don't know.
Probably not.
We must have seen some sort of. But no, that's like a bit like the cyclists do, like the cyclists always, they stop racing, and have their little protest. And so I guess it's the only way of showing, to keep people accountable, that it's showing your feelings. And
well, especially at this level too, like there's a lot of money.
Yeah.
They're all there for one reason. Well, not all, but they want to achieve as much as they can and get to the top of the step, so they can follow through the Olympics and what have you. So,
good on them. The whole fleet did it, so they must have had reason. So Bossy, we've got a problem, my friend. Obviously BP's gone quiet during this last bit of the section because we can't wake him. Who's going to play the guitar? Can you?
I could play the trombone.
Okay.
It sounds. I'll press the guitar button on it though, so it sounds like a guitar.
Okay. Let me give it a go. Let's see how you go. Oh dear, this is weird.
Oh, I even sound.
You're singing. Thanks for listening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Another great week of fun. We've got heaps coming up in the next few weeks, so it'll be a ton of fun. And BP, wake up.
The press comes under me.